Hello, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Politics on Naija Anchor News. Today, we are diving deep into one of the darkest chapters of Nigeria's political history, a story that has shaped the trajectory of our democracy, for better or worse. We're talking about how Abacha crippled Nigeria's democracy. To understand the impact of the late Sani Abacha on Nigeria's democracy, we need to rewind to one of the most significant elections in our history, the June 12, 1993 election. Nigeria had just witnessed what many would consider the fairest and freest election in its history.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful.
The June 12 election, won by Chief MKO Abiola, was the beacon of hope for a true democratic transition. But that hope was short-lived when General Ibrahim Babangida, the military head of state at that time, shockingly annulled the election.
There was, in fact, a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
It is incredible. In view of all this, I find the conclusion unfortunate but inescapable that the federal military government is guilty of bad faith, pure and simple.
The entire country was thrown into chaos. Democracy had been dealt a massive blow, and Nigeria was pushed into a dark period of uncertainty.
Tensions in Nigeria grew from last year's presidential elections, which were annulled by the military after the People's Choice, MKO Abiola, appeared to win. He's now in jail.
After Babangida stepped down, Abacha came into power through a military coup in 1993.
Consequently, the following decisions come into immediate effect. The interim national government is hereby dissolved. The national and state assemblies are also dissolved. The state executive councils are dissolved. The brigade commanders are to take over from the governors in their states until administrators are appointed. Where there are no brigade commanders, the commissioners of police in the states are to take over. All local governments stand dissolved. The directors of personnel are to take over the administration of the local governments until administrators are appointed. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved. All former secretaries to federal ministries are to hand over to their director generals until ministers are appointed.
And this was when the real damage began. Abacha's dictatorship was backed by ruthless repression, silencing of opposition, and complete disregard for democratic principles.
The two political parties are hereby dissolved. All processions, political meetings, and associations of any type in any part of the country are hereby banned. Any consultative committee, by whatever name called, is hereby proscribed.
Anyone who stood against his government was either imprisoned, exiled, or silenced permanently.
Part of the problem is that it's always very difficult to ensure federalism under the centralist military government. But that will change. You heard it very recently. Orders being given by the military president of the country to the governors of the states. That is not in accordance with our constitution. Maybe the problem arose because we allowed this diarchy. Because what we have now is a diarchy. We have the civilian regime everywhere else, but having a military head. The body is civilian, the head is military.
MKO Abiola, who rightfully won the election, was thrown into detention for daring to declare himself president.
You will recall that in spite of these overtures and good gestures by government, Chief MKO Abiola flagrantly perpetuated acts which breached the laws of the land, but government in its magnanimity never gave him serious attention. His most recent action of declaring himself the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria incited the public to insurrection and attempting to topple the government by force with a view to installing himself as President, however led to his arrest by the law enforcement agents.
For 5 years, Abacha ruled Nigeria with an iron fist. The democratic ideas that had begun to take root were suffocated under his brutal regime. On June 8, 1998, Sani Abacha died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. While his death was met with relief and jubilation across the country, it brought with it waves of uncertainty. Some believe it was a divine intervention, while others whispers about possible assassination. But regardless of how it happened, it marked the beginning of a new chapter for Nigeria. With Abacha out of the picture, many believe that Abiola's release was imminent and that the military would finally restore his mandate. However, this hope was short-lived. Abiola himself tragically died under suspicious circumstances, barely a month after Abacha's demise. Two powerful figures, two untimely deaths, but Nigeria's journey toward democracy was far from over. Now, let's entertain a crucial question. What if Abacha had lived and Abiola was released to reclaim his mandate? Nigeria's political landscape might have taken a different turn. Abacha's survival would likely have meant the continuation of his ruthless dictatorship, with little or no hope for democracy in the near future. The release of Abiola would have sparked an even more violent confrontation between pro-democracy activists and the military, leading to prolonged unrest or possibly a civil war. On the flip side, if Abacha had died earlier and Abiola had been allowed to take office, Nigeria would have transitioned into more prosperous democracy earlier than 1999. Abiola, a man of the people, could have laid a stronger foundation for the country's development, promoting unity and economic growth. His presidency could have changed the trajectory of our nation and prevented the deep-rooted corruption and dysfunction we see today. Fast forward to 2024 and we are faced with the harsh realities of democracy that still seems incomplete. Our current president, Bola Tinubu, who was one of the key figures in the fight for democracy during the June 12, 1993 era. However, despite his rise to power, Nigeria's democracy remains fraught with challenges. The cost of living has skyrocketed, with fuel now at an astronomical 1,000 naira per litre and a dollar trading at 1,600 naira. The promise of democracy, for which many sacrifice their lives, seems to have been eroded by corruption, poor governance, and economic instability. This is the question that lingers on the minds of millions of Nigerians. Was it Abacha's iron grip that set Nigeria on this course of democratic dysfunction? Or was it the tragic loss of leaders like MKO Abiola, who could have altered the nation's fate? Or should we blame the likes of OBJ or the democratically elected presidents? Whatever the answer, one thing is clear: the foundation of Nigeria's democracy remains shaky, and the consequences of the events from the 1990s are still being felt today. Our leaders seem disconnected from the struggles of ordinary Nigerians, and the hope for a brighter future seems distant. So, here's the burning question for you. What do you think would have happened if Abacha had lived longer, or if MKO Abiola had been released or allowed to lead? Would Nigeria be in a better place today, or was the democratic experiment always doomed to struggle in a mix of tribal and religious sentiment? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Let's talk politics.